Hello everyone, my name is Sierra Weaver. I'm a first year mathematics major from Norfolk, Virginia, and I attend Spelman College. Ever since I was younger, I've always had a deep curiosity. I've always asked plenty of questions, and even when my questions were answered, I was never satisfied. I always followed up with the question, why? I wanted to have a deeper understanding of how things happen. And with my deep curiosity and my unique perspective of being a student from an underserved community, I use these two factors to fuel my passion for improving the American education system. I first noticed the funding gap between schools and my transition from elementary school to middle school. I attended elementary school within my school district that was full of and primarily populated of students from underserved neighborhoods. Within my school, I noticed the trend primarily within the students from grades 3 through 5, which is considered the testing grades. I noticed that faculty, teachers, and principals, they were often reminding students that we were considered to be one of the lowest two performing schools within the state. And while I was not happy with these words, I did not truly understand the significance of it. I did not understand this until I went to middle school. And in my middle school, it was in a different district than the city. And this was a primarily wealthier part of the city. You could visually see the funding difference within the furniture, the technology, and the funding within the sports. And with my curiosity, I decided to do a little research. And I noticed that school funding often depends on performative factors, such as test scores, GPAs, and the school's graduation rates. And I also noticed that schools within my school district, they often perform lower than schools in the other districts around the city. Therefore, I noticed that that's why they receive lower funding. But, like myself, I always asked, why? Why were students performing lower within this part of the city, within this underserved community? Therefore, I decide that when I enter the education field, I want to take on a different perspective. I want to have student-led data drive educational decisions within the education system. Unfortunately, community leaders within the education system and parents and teachers do not know what students deal with day to day. They do not know what goes on students' minds and what affects them. Therefore, I want to ask the students why. Instead of having outside sources state the facts, I want students to state the facts. I want students' voices to be heard. And with this student-driven data, I plan to improve the education system. And with a major in mathematics, primarily focusing on analytics so that I can analyze data, and also a minor in secondary education so that I can interact with students and gain insight from the students on what they feel they need to improve. How can they improve their academic performance? What can change around the school so that it can better support them? And with this major and minor, it will not only support my curiosity and unique perspective to become a better scholar from gathering data and deeply analyzing the truths about the education system, it would also help me as a leader who always listens first, who always seeks to gain insight from the community that it is affecting, and also provide equitable student-led initiatives to reform the education system. I hope to create an education system where student voices are not an additional voice to supplement outside sources, but it is the primary focus of how we reform the education system. Thank you.